Good. Well, we are looking at our presentation and we're thinking about the law of the lid, which we've been talking about for the last week. We're going to start with this presentation, what you just saw, but then we're going to look at ourselves and we're going to look at the future. Those are the three types of things that we'd like to look at. So when we discuss the presentation, let's look at laws of lid. Think about where the lids were that you saw, and think about where other things were offered. People to come in or ideas to change. After that, so that's one thing that we can talk about. It's going to be an open discussion, so we're all going to be talking and responding to each other. If you'd like to point parts of the book, please feel free to do so. Another thing that you can then look at is yourself, and I saw that that was one of the discussion questions that we were looking at. Have you ever seen this type of thing in your work? Have you been a part of it? What did it look like? What did it sound like? What was the lid? And how did you get beyond it? So we're thinking presentation and then self, and then we're thinking for the future. What is it that we have to take away to go ahead and move further in our leadership, whether it be at home, whether it be in the business site? Who would like to begin this discussion?
First of all, comments on your first portion of that, what the perception was as to the lid and the way the discussion addressed that lid.
Well, I'd like to chime in here. Well, I think the fact that they invoked or invited your expertise shows that they're already taking steps to expand their leadership, right? So they're adopting, they weren't able to so far secure leadership in their own organization, so they're basically augmenting that or substituting that with your expertise, which is great, right? So I think that was, your presentation brought out that there are enormous resources out there that we can consult with to try to bring our vision, crystallize our vision. I think that has struck a chord with me because I'm kind of in the same exact position in my own company, that I want to attract all this great leadership, but I know within 5 minutes they'll be looking at me for vision, right? And I'm thinking, well, how can I lean on maybe consultants or temporary leaders to help me try to attract better leadership in my own company, you know? So that was helpful for me. I think my takeaway for this is that I need to have a much more crystallized vision of what my company is trying to achieve, to attract those leaders. So they think, wow, I can have a future with this company. It's so broad, or I can see this company being 10 million in six years or something to that effect, just based on a crystallized vision and maybe some leadership to convey a security in that vision, right? So they can sign up on our company rather than a competitor. So that was helpful.
I think what their biggest lid, it's sort of interesting. I know we look at the McDonald brothers and we talk about their lid, but there's a lot of people that couldn't even get to starting an entity and getting to be successful. And so with someone starting, just getting to that point is the lid. And so I think what you guys are trying to help them do is go, okay, let's focus on what you're going to do geographically. Let's have a deep, narrow focus initially, which you sort of need to have something that's successful before you can expand it. So sometimes you take your eyes off, you look at expanding something and you take your eyes off of just getting it going. And so I think even though you guys had this great idea and you were really good at interior design, turning that into a business is a huge step. So that's where I think you were helping, actually just giving them just the first base before you expanded it beyond that.
I think another part of Kurt's question was, have any of you ever seen this particular dynamic in your own life experiences? Involved in discussion groups where you see somebody in need, somebody with some areas of expertise come together, and each one has a different point of view, but together this new point of view emerges. Have you ever been part of a? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it definitely, for myself in business, anytime we sit down, with a client that we're discussing a new project with, there's always that evaluation of, what their vision is, but what are the steps that are necessary to be put in place to actually achieve it. She mentioned, well, what is the vision? Oh, it's big. We want to do all of this, but until you actually sit down and okay, well, how do we get there? You know, what are the necessary steps? What's that process that we go through? And that's kind of where that forum comes in. When you sit down and you go back and forth and establish that roadmap that takes you to that vision. So, yeah, it definitely happens a lot in business, and I think it happens even, you know, in leadership in the church or in the home as well. You know, where it's on a smaller scale, but you still have that forum, even if it's just between two people establishing that direction and the path.